Okay, great. So thank you very much for the introduction, and thank you for the invitation to be here today. It is a real honor and privilege to be here. Infrastructure is actually something that I think a lot about. So we're thinking about infrastructure, certainly in the library. We're also thinking about it in our Translational Sciences Institute, which I direct informatics and data science. And so all of these roads seem to lead to libraries and have motivated the work that I'm going to share with you today and our long-standing collaboration with the Zenodo team. I will not be talking about everything that is ongoing. So one of the things that I will not have time to talk about that also intersects libraries that I'm really excited about is the idea of using generative AI to generate plain language summaries for all of the research that we're producing from our Translational Sciences Institute. And there are a number of other things that are ongoing in that space, and I'd be happy to talk about that afterward or some other time during the meeting. I'm sure that a lot of you in the room are familiar with Zenodo. Zenodo's been in place for about 20 years. It's based at CERN. It is built by researchers for researchers. So Zenodo's been in place for a long time, and it's always reflected the needs of the community in terms of understanding kind of what those workflows are like, what the goals are that people are trying to accomplish when they're trying to deposit, preserve, share their research artifacts. And so this is just a screenshot from the other day. This is what it looks like. What I'm going to be talking about today is also motivated by the engine beneath Zenodo. So that's Invenio RDM. This is an open source code base that's leveraged by Zenodo, as well as by dozens and dozens of other repositories around the world. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that. So this has been a real journey. So my team first started working with Zenodo in 2017, 2018, about that time, where it was motivated by an email to Lars. So we said, we'd really like to have a repository that works like Zenodo. And we know that there's an NIH data management and sharing requirement that's coming down the pipeline, and we want to be ready for it. And he said, whatever you do, do not build it. Do not use the code base that we already have. We really want to work together to build, to upgrade the code. So we want something that's Python, built on Python, that's modular, that people can use and put together, much like Sean was talking about, very modular so that it can reflect the needs of the community, be flexible, and also be a way for the community to get involved. And so you can see, here's the trajectory of the Zenodo/Invenio software lifespan. So Zenodo was first launched in 2002 on Invenio 1.0. As you can see, over the course of the years, there have been a number of kind of key things with the pace picking up over the last few years. Zenodo moved over onto the Invenio RDM codebase in 2023. The European research repository was launched into production in 2024, which houses all European Commission funded science for compliance. And then finally today, we've got a robust platform. It's very fair forward and an incredibly strong community, which we'll talk about here in a minute. As of not long ago, there are 5 million records in Zenodo, over 26,000 communities. And so it really has provided a great scaffold for being able to do modern open science. So the Invenio RDM software is actually 3 different ways of thinking about the software. So there are shared components across all of these different tools. There's RDM, which is the Research Data Management and Sharing Platform. There's the framework, which is really a core framework for building large-scale digital repositories. For the most part, the fact that Zenodo can run on RDM lets you know that there are only going to be a few circumstances where you might want the framework, but just to let you know that's there. And then there's actually an integrated library system. And so if you notice in the bottom of each one of these, you can see that there are links to product information, codes, there's documentation, chat rooms, different ways to get involved. I will say this is the best open source community I have ever been a part of. It's wonderful. There are so many resources in place for people. There's such a collaborative spirit and a real celebration of each other's victories and a real coming together to help to solve the challenges that we all face. So NVIDIA RDM, as I mentioned, is the engine behind Zenodo. It is free open source software, which is important to us. It's based on an MIT license. As I mentioned, the community is incredibly friendly and responsive. There are resources in different places, and we are connecting in person wherever we can. So we have annual meetups. We're getting together at open repositories. We're traveling to each other's locations to collaborate. And then NVIDIA, as I mentioned, has also been around for 20 years. So these services that are built on top of this framework allow us to be able to practice best practices science and leverage standards throughout. So let's talk a little bit about the features. I'm going to go through these fairly quickly, but I want to give you a chance to be able to see some of the different things that we're excited about and that are really helping to reflect that user perspective in all we do. So the first of these is a great user interface. So we're really thinking about the user experience when they come to accomplish a task. What does that look like? What's the leverage? What kind of burden do they have to overcome in order to accomplish the task? And, you know, we've said it a number of times, and I think it probably bears repeating here. The best incentive for good practices is to make it easy to do the right thing. And so that's what they've really tried to do in terms of all of the work across this platform. And we'll look at a couple of examples throughout, but you can see here, so not only do we have an accessible and responsive design, but we've really tried to integrate auto-completion workflows wherever we can. And so we're looking at things like names, when you, even just today, so you notice there's a QR code on my front slide. I took advantage of the auto-completion when I uploaded my slides a few minutes ago. So where I typed in my name and it immediately found my ORCID and I selected it and it pre-populated it. So there was no worrying that I was running late for the session. I was able to just select it rather than mistyping something. So that's incredibly helpful. It's highly scalable. So we've talked about the fact that there are about 5 million records in Zenodo, but it's more than that. There's support for large file sets. It can support any file set that your individual site can handle. There are versioning is supported throughout. There are a number of different storage systems. So you can leverage really what your local ecosystem needs in order to thrive. And so that can be incredibly important for an organization or for a group that's planning on implementing NVIDIA RDM locally. There are a lot of kind of local considerations in these types of things. That's certainly the way it is at Northwestern University, where we've also implemented the software. And so we're able to be partners with our IT team rather than constantly working against each other. So it really does help to also nurture those local collaborations. You can deploy it anywhere. So as I mentioned, it's a Python application and it can be deployed on-prem, in virtual machines, through containers and so on. And I think the fact that there is such a robust user community, there are tons of email, feedback, user information sessions where we're able to get information from end users. There are a number of also features that are customizable. I'm not going to go into this, but these are all the things that you might imagine that you might want to have in place if you're implementing something like this locally, either as an institutional repository or a project repository. You can see that throughout, there's a strong reliance and priority on standards and best practices. It's highly interoperable. So throughout all of these, I mean, all of these are important, but I do want to highlight 3 things. The first of these is standard data citations. So we have the make data count metrics that have been in place now for quite some time. And that helps us be able to support the tracking and acknowledgement of data citations. There's an OAI PMH server, which means that metadata from records is going to be discoverable, which is incredibly important if you want to be discovered in somewhere, let's say, like a data catalog, and we'll talk about that in a moment. And then the other thing I want to point out is that there's support for metadata-only records. We have a great use case, this critical data set that was supported by the National Center for Advancing Translational Sciences at NIH. And even though it's a de-identified data set, it's still not something that we want to make widely available, just openly available. So we have a landing page record where we're able to make that data set discoverable and direct people to talk to the PI. So links are all there. For Make Data Count, one quick plug, I want to let you know there's a Kaggle competition that's been launched over the last month. I serve as an advisor on Make Data Count, and we are super excited about this. So if you're looking for something fun to do, please take a look at it. As you might imagine, I've talked a little bit about how it's powerful. It is also very secure. You're able to have, a really fine-tuned resolution in terms of access for individual records. Those can be changed on the individual per record or on the community level. Communities are branded collections of records that come together. And so we'll look at a good example of that here. So on the right of the slide, you can see it's not exactly high resolution here, but I want to point out it's a screenshot from an NIH branded community that is currently under development. We're really excited about this. So communities are in place now. We use communities for other things. For example, the Generalist Repository Ecosystem Initiative, we leverage as a Zenodo community to be able to hold all of our shared outputs. And it's really worked great. But we're also putting one together for all of the NIH data that's housed in Zenodo so that we can highlight all of the great research that's being deposited so that we can support kind of browse and search activities by users. We want to be able to further support good metadata. So this, by capturing all of these records and bundling them together in this community, we're able to work on AI facilitated metadata enhancement. And we're doing that with Arjun Christian from the University of Colorado. This also means that it's going to be easier for the NIH dataset catalog to be able to capture our records. So the community is incredibly important. These are a couple of snapshots from community events over the last couple of years. Like I said, we're always looking for opportunities to get together. And these sessions are not only fun, but they're actually highly productive too. So it's really been a great opportunity to learn and share. And I think by having perspectives from not just in the United States, I feel like I've learned a lot by hearing perspectives from around the world. And I can definitely say that my team has learned a lot and contributed a lot too. So it's really been fantastic. The QR code on this slide is for a recent metadata health workshop that was generously supported by the NIH and the Office of Data Science Strategy, where we really tried to dig in on that idea of improving metadata and this idea of metadata health. So we collaborated with DataCite and other collaborators in the community, and it was really productive. So this is a link to our slide or to our poster that we recently showed. And to highlight the community a little bit more, the community is also, it's not a community that I've seen in other kinds of open source spaces where there's an open source community, but don't touch the code, So this is an open source community where there's really active work happening across all of the different members of the community. We facilitate this in a couple of different ways. So we've got GitHub discussions. These are really active spaces. We also have the peer-reviewed requests for comment documents. And so these are active, ongoing conversations around the community. There's a very active Discord channel as well. So people get to know each other. It kind of builds that meaningful relationships, both virtually and then in person wherever we can. Here's a couple of examples of real contributions from members of the community, not the CERN team. So we have reliable big file uploads, as you can imagine. This is an important thing to get in place for some of the big data that's happening these days. Fair signposting, which is a fair science best practice, is something that was also contributed by the community. It was my team that put this together and made the commit to the core code. So we're really excited about that and glad to be able to play a role there. So this is a QR code palooza. So there are 4 QR codes. I just wanted to be able to give you quick directions to the website, documentation, if you'd like to try it out, and then if you want to chat on that Discord. I also wanted to put a link to some of the different implementations that are currently in place. Caltech Data has they have a terrific data repository, so I'd encourage you to take look at that. My own team has a PRISM repository for Northwestern. TU Wien has really supercharged their NVIDIA RDM instance with a lot of next generation research data management and sharing characteristics. So that has been a lot of fun to see as well. And then we also have cloud hosting and commercial support partners in place, which is reassuring because not everybody, I mean, this is a heavy lift, right? Like, no, you don't want to do this work unless you know that you have institutional support and that you have the personnel and the infrastructure to be able to support it. And so being able to have hosted solutions or to be able to have that technical support when you need it is really important kind of for the broader ecosystem. Okay, so just a couple of infrastructure shout outs that I wanted to make, different projects. But I couldn't not take advantage of being at the podium. Okay, the first of these is the NIH Comparative Genomics Resource. This is a tremendous investment by the National Institutes of Health across all of the institutes and centers to really invest in the eukaryotic data and tooling ecosystem. So you can see through this pyramid that there are a lot of opportunities to be realized by having this kind of infrastructure in place, from discovery science to being able to just support routine activities in the lab, just to be able to make that work go smoother, go faster. So that's really been terrific. There are a couple of links here. There's a link to CGR, the homepage, and then there is also the Insights blog. So this is the NCBI, the National Center for Biotechnology Information at the National Library of Medicine, has the Insights blog, and they have, it truly is actually a great blog, but they also tag all of their CGR references there, so you can catch up on what they're doing. And then I also want to point out another great project I'm involved with. I love it. It's one of my favorite projects. It's Generalist Repository Ecosystem Initiative. It's called the Co-opetition. So it's a combination of cooperation and competition with 6 other generalist repositories, which are shown there, where we are cooperating on a lot of the shared things that we want to make the ecosystem better. Metadata, metrics, outreach, those kinds of things. And then we're competing on things that are, it's a curation approach, data visualizations or other types of things. And it's really been a terrific opportunity to, I think, advance the field kind of for the broader community. And we've come together and benefited in ways that I could not have imagined when I joined the project. So there is a full session in the NIH Elixir event on Wednesday. Mark Hannell is going to be presenting, so I'd encourage, if you're interested, go ask Mark lots of good questions. I'm sure he would love to answer that. And then with that, I just want to point out, I think the NVIDIA RDM 13.0 release is due out tomorrow, so I'm very excited about that. It's definitely before the end of the month. None of this work is possible without people working together. And, we keep seeing this in all of these sessions that we're seeing here today. It's true here too. So a huge thanks to everyone who has contributed to this. I also want to point out, it would also not be possible without the generous funding from the National Institutes of Health. It's an honor and responsibility to be funded by the National Institutes of Health, and it really makes possible a lot of great work. So with that, I will stop and thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Kristi. We have time for one question, if somebody has a question. Any questions in all the sessions last one? No questions? Oh, one way over there. At the front to you. For people online to hear you.
Hi, I'm Phil Blood from Pittsburgh Supercomputing Center. I run a data platform for an NIH data program called HubMap. So I wondered about opportunities to collaborate, maybe with platforms that don't use underlying software that you're using. It sounds like you're already cooperating with your competitors who are generalist repositories. We're not a generalist repository, but just curious about other opportunities you might see to collaborate or share information, exchange ideas, that sort of thing.
Sure, that's a great question. So the first thing that comes to mind, I think, is just thinking about, like, for instance, metadata best practices, those types of things. So we've thought about that with the domain repositories and also institutional repositories. Are there collaborations around persistent identifiers, metadata best practices, other kinds of standards that we can rally around? I know I can speak on behalf of our collaboration. We are always excited to talk to people, to learn from one another. I mean, we're working with lots of different people from lots of different spaces. It's how the best science happens, is when you have someone who brings something up that you've never thought of, didn't know existed, and then you can't stop thinking about it. So, we're always very interested in conversations, and I'd be happy to share more information if you'd like.
Great, thank you.
Yep, thank you.
All right. Well, thank you again, Kristi. Really
Thanks.
appreciate it. We're going to invite up next, and if you can help